Hello, and thanks for joining the show. Every once in a while, when I'm out and about, whether it's in this community or traveling somewhere for work or vacation, I meet someone who I'm pretty sure this audience would like to meet as well. That includes Tracy Ferron, my guest today. Hey, Tracy, it's good to see you again.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
So we met when I was in the Napa area for a wedding, and we were cruising around downtown in Sonoma and that area. And I saw what I thought was something related to, I told you then, the movie Castaway, the wings and the heart and what saved him because he built the raft. And that's what intrigued me. And then I went inside and I was just overwhelmed with, just impressed with the work and the mission. So I asked you then if you could come on my show sometime. That's what I love about this show, is getting to pull people in when I meet someone interesting wherever I am. So thanks for being here.
Oh, you bet.
So let's talk about those big hearts with the wings. You have some around you, and we're going to get into great detail. There's a big story behind it, but let's just introduce you and your mission and your project.
Well, I'm Tracy Ferron, and I'm a public and community artist focused on the healing power of art. What we do at Life on Earth Art is to create large-scale art experiences with community art making, and we bring people together to make papier-mâché winged hearts. And what we do is really a combination of personal healing, social cohesion, and building community. We use art therapy modalities and basic social activism to really shine a light on social issues, and then come together with hundreds of winged hearts in different locations to prompt compassion and healing in society.
And how did you come up with this idea? You're an artist first. That's how you are an artist by trade. But how did you come up with this idea? Because some of the greatest, I think, art and storytelling heals lives. I'm a firm believer in storytelling, and I think that this is a perfect example of one of the millions of ways we can help tell a story, or individual stories, multiple stories. So how did you come up with this idea to bring your artwork into this passion project that's soon to become a nonprofit organization?
This has been such a mysterious process. It has been phenomenal. I actually did not train as an artist. I'm a late blooming artist in my 40s. And basically what happened was I went to graduate school in Jungian psychology, or depth psychology. And I was hoping to ignite my creativity, and I wanted to emerge writing historical fiction. But when you work with the unconscious and with dreams and go through the process of really opening up to the creativity and the unconscious, you don't know what's going to happen. And I emerged making symbolic art and then community art, and then everything began to take fire. And what is really the focus of my work, and what I personally experienced, was the ability to unlock trauma through working with dreams, working with my hands, working with art, just following the path. And it was really such an incredible time, Lisa, because I was in my 40s. I had spent, over 20 years raising 5 kids, and I didn't know my path, and I really felt a bit lost. And it was really through the art making that I was able to identify some childhood experiences and trauma that were holding me back in ways that I couldn't see, that I really didn't know. But through the art making, I began to unlock myself and began to be able to move. And then I began to develop this vision. It was really healing through art making. I mean, I experienced it.
And we know that therapists use art even when counseling young children. They'll use art and have them draw what they're feeling, and some things that they can draw that they can't say. And so part of, I've understood from your message and the reading I've done and the videos I've watched, and even the conversation I had with you when we met a few months ago, it is really up to the individual and what their story is to come through. Even though the symbolism of the heart with the wings, they're all technically the same in terms of their structure, they come through just like in what you can see here, the difference between what's in your window and what's behind you. They all are very individualized. And do you find that people come in and maybe they start and it looks one way and it becomes something completely different?
Absolutely, absolutely. What's so exciting about the symbol of the winged heart is that it really can represent a panoply of human emotions. So a person can come to the table just as they are, and with whatever is in their mind, in their heart, and they can work with whatever that emotion is. We've worked recently with community groups for Dia de los Muertos, and many people were coming to decorate hearts for their loved ones. And so there was a mixture of grief and celebration, and I saw that so palpably with the community members. And the thing is, you can really work on both ends of the spectrum in terms of grief and hope and beauty and possibility. And that's what's so lovely about the heart, is that it really is this open platform for people to explore their life, their emotions, their relationship to the world.
Grief without healing and hope is just a really dark space that you never want to stay too long, you know? And how many hearts have been made so far?
I'm happy to report that we have made over 500 hearts.
Excellent. We will be back. We're going to talk more with you about your project, and we're talking with Tracy Ferron. It is lifeonearthart.com for more information. We'll be back in just a moment. I'm here talking with Tracy Ferron. We met when I was in Sonoma, as I mentioned, in the Napa area, and I stumbled into your gallery, which is now moved. I know you're in a different location, but at the time it was quite a display. What's the size is the largest heart with wings that was in that gallery?
We call her Big Mama, and she's a 15-foot wide wingtip to wingtip winged heart. And you can actually see her in the image behind me. That's her in the cage. And I'm very happy to report that she was installed yesterday in one of California's largest psychiatric hospitals, Napa State Hospital, as part of our big
Let's
project.
talk about that. So there's a program you have called Unbound. Let's give our viewers an overview of that program, and then we'll get into more detail about exactly what you do with 500 installations that you've created with the people who've created the art.
Sure. So what we do is we gather groups to make paper mache winged hearts together. And right now we have an incredibly exciting, groundbreaking program with DHS Napa. It is one of California's largest psychiatric hospitals. It has over 1,200 patients and 2,300 staff. And we have a 4-month collaboration with their rehabilitation therapy department. And so what we're doing is we're offering this healing art modality to hundreds of psychiatric patients and staff to co-create a 60-foot sculpture of 1,000 winged hearts flying free from an antique cage.
When you think about how you started, we talked earlier in the first segment about having this idea and using art for healing. How did you come up with this partnership? I mean, to do what you're doing, that's a lofty goal.
Lisa, this is really deeply personal for me. When I grew up with 2 severely mentally ill brothers. And this was part of, some adverse childhood experiences that I had, and part of what I was healing from with my art making. And I saw how stigmatized these individuals are, often forgotten by society, and really desperately lonely. And so when I began working with art therapists, one asked me, would you like to bring the work to Napa State Hospital? And I just, tears began rolling down my face, because my brother had spent time there and much of my childhood in Patton State Hospital. And so I began talking to the art therapists, and I had designed Unbound as a sculpture actually for a center in San Francisco. That didn't end up working out. It clearly is meant for Napa. But what is so exciting is really the ability to affirm the humanity of these psychiatric patients, many of whom may not be out in the world, many who may come and be your neighbor one day. It's such a healing modality, and to use this sculpture as a way of building bridges between the outside and the inside, and to really promote awareness about mental health is just, as I said, it's a deeply personal mission. And I feel so blessed to work with these therapists.
Well, we have all in the last now almost couple of year and a half, experienced isolation in different forms because of the COVID shutdowns and depending on how you navigated that, how each individual navigated that. And so when you were talking just now, I was thinking about the isolation that the people in these hospitals must feel sometimes. And here we've navigated it like we could hunker down with our family or our closest friends or our bubble of people. And for the patients there to have something brought into them that is for them, that is about them, what are some of the responses you've received so far?
Well, I'm happy to report that about 150 patients so far have had their hands on the project. And what is really moving to me is that in the hospital, there are patients of all different ability levels. So, for example, in order to make, here's an example of one of our winged hearts. In order to make this heart, you need ripped up paper. And there's a group of patients that's their skill level, that's what they can do. And the therapist just reported how thrilled they are to be included, to be fundamental. They know that nothing will happen without the paper, and they have an important part in this project. And that's really what we're trying to do, is really bring them as co-creators to the table to be part of something beautiful together. And it's really, from what I hear, everyone is really enjoying all the different stages of making, painting, producing these hearts. It's a very complex project, but it's really exciting how it's rolling out.
Well, and the orchestration of it all and just bringing that to fruition. What is the timeline for your ultimate goal? And if you could describe that ultimate, what does that look like to you?
Right. So imagine a 100-foot hall. This is a recreation hall that has these 1,000 hearts. As they fly from the cage, they grow in size from 9 inches wingtip to 9 feet. So they murmurate through the hall, getting bigger and bigger and more expansive. And so the idea is that when you walk in that hall, you feel, the liberation in your chest, you sense the uplift and the hope before your brain can even process what you're seeing. And so the hall is really designed to be filled with love. And one of the therapists mentioned to me that, so many of the patients struggle with their disconnection from the world and their desire to give back and their desire for forgiveness. And what he described was he imagined the patients feeling love simply raining down on them when they stand in that hall. And that's really what we're about, is prompting compassion and empathy and understanding.
And you'd mentioned that you have raised 5 children. So are they all grown?
I have a junior in high school. She's our 5th, and she's on a junior year abroad in Spain. So she'll be back for her senior year. So we have an empty nest right now, although with all these hundreds of hearts, the nest isn't quite empty, but almost.
I can relate to that so much, because once kind of that purpose of raising your children and having that family unit, and then it gets emptier and emptier and emptier. I just had I have an only child, so up and gone, then empty. I imagine you get a little practice with 5 kids. You get a little used to the departures, perhaps, if that's possible. But what about this, do you think, has filled that nurturer in you? What about this specifically? And if you can, in an overview, tell me what your children think about the work you're doing.
Well, it's interesting right now because of my junior going off for her junior year. We had 2 birds fly this fall. So my middle daughter, Oliver, is a freshman in college. I think they've seen me really struggle to find my passion in life. And I think with there's just a very big transition to stepping into a full-time artist and community organizer. And I think both of my daughters are very very troubled by the state of the world and activist. And I think they really are proud of my work. Yeah.
Well, they must be incredibly proud of you. It's nice when our kids see the purpose in our work and how it impacts even just a corner of the world, right? Our little corner of the world. And so Unbound overall, what is the most important aspect of it for you? What is it that you feel like, what's the biggest goal and what you hope to achieve through it?
As I mentioned, Unbound is deeply personal and comes out of my family's struggles with mental illness. And what I experienced as a child, and it influenced my adult life, is really the isolation, the shame, the disconnection that comes when you have relatives with severe mental illness. And there's so many different layers of struggle. And so what I'm hoping with this project is to really have Unbound be a beacon of hope for those struggling with mental illness and those who care for them. And one of the exciting things about Unbound is the ability for people to sponsor a heart and have it dedicated to their loved one. So they can commission one where we will decorate it and write someone's name and have that liberated heart as part of the installation. And there's just, for me, I think back to when I was a child and my family really didn't know how to handle the struggles that we had, that to be invited to come around the table and to actually make a heart for your loved one, or find a way to handle the grief and the loneliness and the issues that come up in community, that would have been such a gift. And that's what we're trying to provide at Life on Earth Art, is really a way to come together as a community to handle tough stuff, to move through grief, to dialogue about things. And with this particular project, to really dialogue about mental health awareness.
Because it's not just the act of the art, and it's not just the end goal of the installation, it's the conversation probably that's happening. And you've been in earshot of that so many times. What are some of the things that you're hearing during those times of production?
I can't tell you how many people have come into the gallery who literally would say, my son was hospitalized yesterday. Or there was another woman who has been caring for her mentally ill brother and just really in struggles trying to keep him safe. And she really wasn't able to make her own heart. It was too emotional. She helped me with some other tasks, but she really could not, she was so grateful being there and wants to come back. But you see all kinds of different levels of people who are really, they have a lot of emotions and they really need to move those emotions. And we really find courage and strength doing that together. And so that's what's exciting to me about the 1,000 Hearts. It's not so much the 1,000 hearts, it's the 3,000 hands that have come around tables, telling stories, talking, getting to know one another, finding a place. And Lisa, that's what's so interesting about this modality. I mean, you take hundreds of small pieces of paper and you join them, right, in a meditative process. And there's this whole sense of parts to whole, of, knitting parts of yourself together and feeling better, and then coming around the table in community and then feeling better in community. And it's just beautiful witnessing the healing process of it.
And then the ripple effect after they've left from that space of creating the art. We are talking with Tracy Ferron, and the organization is Life on Earth Art. You can visit the website, it's .com, and you're in the process of becoming a 501c3. We're going to talk more with Tracy in just a moment. We've been talking with Tracy Ferron. Thanks so much for all the details that you've shared and the work that you're doing. And again, we met by chance when I was traveling in the Sonoma area, and I stumbled into your gallery at the time. I know one of the questions I'm going to get from people is, how do I get my own heart that I can decorate and design? So talk about that for us, that I can get that question answered here.
Sure. So right now with Unbound, we are focused on these 1,000 hearts, and we're making them in our studio and in pop-up locations in Sonoma and Marin counties here in the Bay Area. We will be having to-go kits where we can send them around the country to have people make hearts. One of the things that's super exciting is the idea that at the end of this, it's installed in the psychiatric hospital, then it will be installed outside for the general public. But then we have 1,000 hearts to deploy for social actions and public rituals when it's needed in society. And so what's exciting to me is the idea of these to-go kits where people, you might not be able to be at a protest or a public ritual, but your heart can be. So watch that space. But for now, we're making here and focusing on Unbound.
Do you have a favorite so far that anyone's created or that you've created? Or is that like trying to pick a favorite child?
You can't pick a favorite, but I do want to show you this one. This was done for the Dia de los Muertos exhibit. And this was done by a veteran who was suffering from PTSD. And this was his commemoration to fallen soldiers. And this was a very, very powerful, palpable moment of commemoration. And it was really very powerful for the family that came. I can't pick favorites. There's each one is so individual, and it's just a beautiful process.
It's a beautiful process, and having seen it firsthand, I can say that for sure. And for the people who can't participate in person and make their own heart, but feel compelled to help or be a part of it, what is their route for that?
Oh, well, that's what's so exciting is that we actually are personalizing hearts, so people can commission a heart for a loved one and give us colors and names, and we will personalize and paint a heart for your loved one to be included in the installation.
I thank you for being here today. I feel like I could spend another hour with you, and I'm excited to know what you do next. I know this project Unbound goes through March, and I will look for things for next year that we can talk about. You reach out to me anytime, and I'm happy to share your mission here. And good luck getting your 501c3. I'm sure you won't have any trouble with that. It is a task, as you know, but it's an important one. So congratulations on all your hard work.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Lisa. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.